Hey everyone, how are you doing? It's Louisa Munson from Feel Good Astrology. I have to be completely transparent with you that I actually feel slightly unprepared for this. Not because I don't know about the subject necessarily, but I've been running around all day. I've just welcomed my parents back into the country of Portugal, so they've come to visit us for a month, and it just feels like I've been like off my game all day doing sort of like family stuff and not really attending to this. So this is probably going to be a bit spontaneous. And it just feels like there's so much going on that I'm kind of in a suck it and see mode. That's how I'm feeling. It's a bit like, let's see what crops up. So I hope you're of a similar frame of mind. I don't know if it's I want to kind of pull you into my confidence a little bit. I mean, earlier today, I thought I was about to have a full on panic attack. I actually thought I was going to have a bit of a meltdown. When kind of emotions and stress and whatnot just kind of overwhelm you. And it just feels like the magnitude of my life right now just feels like really up here and in my face. And I just wonder, does anyone else feel like that? That said, we have got the total solar eclipse tomorrow. And it is also opening the eclipse season for the whole of the year. It's going on for like 2 weeks. And then it comes back, we revisit it in October, and I'll be talking about that in another session. But straight after the eclipse, we've got Mercury going retrograde and, both the sun and the moon changing signs. It's just a really epic week, full stop. So I'm wondering how you're doing. So let us know. Let me know where you're listening in from. If you're new to this show, then welcome. I hope you find this useful. And if you do, just let us know. Say hello. I love welcoming new people. This is a bit of a trial. I started this when Jupiter and the Sun went Casimi. So that was the first show that I did, just to see, how doing a live sort of pop-up astrology thing might work. And so far, so good. I'm enjoying it and I'm getting some lovely feedback. I've got a yep from somebody. I can't see who you are. It's just showing you as Facebook user. I don't want to call you FU because that sounds a bit rude, but hey, nice to see you. Let us know who you are. Now, I wonder, if you've thought much about Mercury retrograde. And I also wonder, what are your big thoughts and preconceptions about Mercury retrograde? Mercury retrograde tends to get a bit of a bad rap, and that's what I'm going to be looking at today. I know we've got the big old total solar eclipse tomorrow, and I'm going to do the daily forecast in just a minute. And also pick out a card for tomorrow to help us, really sort of embed the energy or prepare ourselves. And, we spoke yesterday in terms of how you might want to prepare for a total solar eclipse. Like, do you want to use this amazing sort of growth energy to create some kind of plan for yourself or intention? So, we've been talking around it. And there's also that video that I've done called what's it called? I've forgotten already. Clash of the Goddesses. So there's a lot of material. There's a lot of stuff floating around. We've got Woolly B joining us today from Pennsylvania. You're new to my show. I don't believe I've welcomed you here before, but hey, a big hello and thank you for joining me. I hope you're having a great day. I'm not aware of, I don't have any clients in Pennsylvania, so this is really nice to connect with Pennsylvania. I've got Shannon joining me from Texas right now. So a big, warm, heartfelt hello to Shannon. So yeah, so we're going to look at Mercury retrograde up close and personal, have a look at the main themes for this Mercury retrograde. And what I'd really like to pay attention to is where it starts and what's going on when it starts, and what's like the quality of it by the time it finishes. Because I always think that the Mercury retrograde is a bit of like a learning journey. So I'm just going to bring on tomorrow's forecast, and then after that, let's talk about all things Mercury retrograde. And let us know, have you had any mishaps with Mercury retrograde? I'd love to know if it's true that it's an administratively awful time or terrible for travel in your experience. It'd be really great to know. So anyway, let's bring on tomorrow's forecast and get on with the show. Okay, so this is the big eclipse day. This is just a quick heads up. Obviously, there's the eclipse video that you can watch called Clash of the Goddesses. Anyway, there's a new moon and a total solar eclipse happening at 4:13 a.m. That's local time to London and Western Europe. It's like Lisbon time where I am. And you can check out those times on timeanddate.com if you want to know the right time for you. But essentially, we're going from the energy of Aries into the energy of Taurus. So as we are waking up in the morning, we're waking up with that sense of like almost like we've arrived somewhere new. We went to bed feeling really quite strident, quite determined, and there was this feeling of imminent change. And then as we're waking up, there's the energy of Taurus, and that's more about, okay, well, how can I ground this? How can I use this? How can I make sense of this? How can I take a step outside of my identity for a moment and actually think in terms of creating value? So it's less about me, and more about how to like birth yourself and release your gifts into the world, create some value. I really see that that's a great thing. This is a day, it's a really good day for creating an intention and really understanding that we're about to go into a new growth phase. And these growth phases are perfect. Like if you're a gardener, this is the time. I wouldn't plant today on the 20th. I would wait until the 21st, but get sowing your seeds. This is a really good time for it. Anything that I would say is a negative is the fact that you've got both the moon and sun in a square to Pluto. So even though, you are coming out of your shell, you're coming out of yourself and you're thinking, okay, I want to give value, there are still some feelings of resistance. Now, you might choose to ask yourself, where is that resistance coming from? If you're trying to control how people think of you, and that's showing up as a resistance, i.e., I've got gifts, I love doing what I do, but I'm a bit embarrassed to put myself out there, then this is time to have a really good, long, hard chat with yourself and say, come on, step out of that vanity. Just do it, just like get yourself out there, get yourself heard, share whatever it is that you do so well. It's time to do it. We need you. So anyway, there's my... So that's enough from me anyway. I think you get the idea. I think it's time for us to really share ourselves. And the card for tomorrow that I picked from the Messages from the Angels deck, which is a Doreen Virtue one, it's Archangel Uriel. So your emotions are healing, which enables you to open to greater love. It will help you release anger and unforgiveness from your heart and mind. And that's actually really quite a strong card, because anger is something, one of these raw emotions that really catalyzes things and gets things moving. And it really can kind of match the energy of Aries, which can be very strident and strong. And it's opening you up to greater love to help release your anger and unforgiveness. Now, Taurus is very much about greater love, and it's very much about unforgiveness. In my mind, the Taurian energy is deeply forgiving. I mean, they don't forget, but they're really forgiving and very, very grounded. And they really do recognize that everybody's just human. We're all on this human journey together. So I think that's a great card for tomorrow as well. I've got another comment from Willie B. Thank you. I've been learning astrology for a couple of months now and found you through researching to understand some of my chart points. I'm really delighted. Let me know what you'd like to learn. And if I can be of any help, then just hit me up. Just say, hey, I need a bit more. I'm really happy to do what I can. I think astrology should absolutely be shared with people. I see it as being a really good medium for us to be able to plan our lives, to be able to understand things. You know what? I think, as you get into astrology, you tend to, I don't know, I think you see the cycles of life, like really coming and going. And I think it really helps you to understand that you are part of something. That's my experience anyway. So I'd be really keen to hear how you're changing since you've been learning about this and what you've learned about yourself. So thank you for sharing that, Willie B. It's a great name as well. A fantastic name. So let's have a look at this retrograde then. So essentially, the retrograde, like if you're looking at the planets, if we had a real live time, like a real time chart, you would see angles moving. In fact, if I just go on to the other side, if this was like a real time chart, you'd see this angle and these angles, and then these little doorways known as cusps in between the signs. You would see them all shifting and moving. And essentially what's happening is you'd see the ecliptic belt moving up, because the ascendant appears to be moving down. I mean, the ascendant always stays on this level plane, but the degree, like it's at 9 degrees Cancer, if you were to watch it in real time, you would see it would go to 10, 11, and it'd go all the way around. And, you know, each day, every 24 hours, it goes all the way around. Okay. And similarly, if you were to watch this in real time over the course of the month, you would see the moon, which is here, and it would move around anti-clockwise, and it would do a whole loop every 28 days. And similarly, the sun here would move 30 degrees in the space of a month, and Mercury and Venus around that, you know, a little bit more, a little bit less. Thereafter, all the other planets get a little bit slower. So everything appears to be moving around this way, apart from this little symbol here, which is really hard to describe what it is, but it's the North Node. The symbol looks a little bit like a pair of legs with feet coming out the bottom, or a top hat, like an old-fashioned bowler hat or something. But anyway, the North Node appears to go in this direction. So what we're talking about today is Mercury retrograde. And so when we're looking at our birth charts, first of all, when you look at your birth charts, you'll be wanting to check if any of the planets are retrograde. And I'll do a separate show about this, but you can tell if they're retrograde because they've got, you'll see, like, here's Neptune. It's at 2638. If my eyesight is correct, I think it looks like 2636 or 2638. And it would have a little R next to it. And you'll see here where Mercury is, which is that little guy with little horns on his head. Underneath it, he's got a little R just to the right of it, and it says 1537. And so this actually is the moment that Mercury goes retrograde. This is the chart for Mercury going retrograde, and he goes retrograde at 1537. And essentially what happens is he appears to stop moving forwards in the general flow with the other planets, and appears, and it's an optical illusion, appears to move backwards. And Mercury retrograde happens approximately 3 times every year for about 2.5 to 3 weeks each time. But in reality, what's actually happened is he hasn't just stopped still. He's, over the last week and a half, he's just started to slow down. And then he will appear to go stationary, like a bit like if you were playing with a yo-yo, and your yo-yo is just coming to the end. It's just about to be flicked back. And so it's like this marks the point just as Mercury is going retrograde. And then over the next 3 weeks, Mercury is going backwards from 15 degrees to 5 degrees, all within the sign of Taurus. And then when he gets to 5 degrees, he appears to start moving forwards again. In reality, his motion is slowing down, and it looks like it comes to a stop, and then he's moving forwards again. And then by the first week in June, Mercury will have moved forwards and actually passed this original starting point of 15 degrees. That's when we say Mercury's out of his shadow. You know, it really feels like Mercury is moving on, and whatever we were learning during that time is over and done and dusted. And then, you know, a few months later, Mercury will be retrograde again for 3 weeks. And then a few months later, he'll go retrograde again. And we can chart it. Now, all of these planets, you don't see the sun or the moon go retrograde, and that's a whole other story. But you'll see that all these other planets go retrograde as well. And it's not that they're actually moving backwards. It's a little bit like if you're driving on the motorway, as you overtake somebody, it appears that they're starting to go backwards. It's an optical illusion. So I know with all of these slower moving planets, so from Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune and Pluto, and we've also got Chiron in here somewhere. Where's Chiron gone? There he is. All of these ones, as the sun passes it, it appears that everything goes into retrograde. So yeah, it's like we or as the earth passes it, sorry, it feels like, we are observing that these planets are going retrograde. It's slightly different with Mercury, but I'm hoping you get the picture. So it's just an optical illusion. It's how we observe where the planets are and how they're moving. And of course, they've all got different relative speeds, as I've already discussed. Like the moon, goes all the way around here in 28 days, and Pluto, it takes, I think, 258 years off the top of my head. It's probably wrong, but something like that. It takes a long time. It's going to take Pluto a whole 20 years to get from here to there. Imagine how many times that moon's going to have gone around all the different sides. So everything works at its own speed. So we observe these. And the energy of Mercury retrograde, essentially, if you think about Mercury, what do we already know about Mercury? Let's just see if we've got some comments coming in, actually. So Nubianet, hello Nubianet, nice to see you back here again. Listening at work, it's a nice escape. And that's to my day being more interesting. Thank you. Oh, it's so great that I can reach out to people while they're at work. If I still worked in, if I was still at work, not like, obviously I'm at work and I listen to YouTube all day, but I work for myself and I work from home. But I mean, if I was at work, I think that would be quite a cool little luxury to do. I love that people can do that now. I think it's great. And I've got another Facebook user saying, yoo-hoo, don't know who you are, but let me know. Thank you for that. So Mercury is known as the planet to do with our intellect, how we think, and also how we communicate. Because Mercury moves pretty much through all the 12 signs in the space of a year, he's known as being a fast mover. So things like travel, postal services, faxes, obviously not many people send faxes anymore, emails, bank transfers, anything that moves from A to B is very much a mercurial thing. Mercury is also known as Hermes. And if you think about it, I think there's Hermes that is a delivery company. So, lots of things to do with Mercury are to do with deliveries. But you've also got the idea of Hermes as a magician. And so if you think about Mercury is known for words, and words, you need to spell words, don't you? And there is this thought that Mercury is a bit of a master magician, a bit of a trickster. Mercury rules the sign of Gemini, and Gemini is that sign that is, people say, they've got two sides to them, they're two-faced. You know what, I think everybody is, so I don't pay too much attention to that. But the whole idea of duplicity is a very much a mercurial thing, that people can flip from one thing to another and really change their energies. So Mercury is very fast acting. So because of that, when Mercury goes retrograde, it feels like the flow of our communications go a bit wonky. Travel, if you've got like hotel bookings, if you've got anything important going down, lots of people say don't do this at this time. Now, I wrote a book back in 2015. I've taken it out of publication because I don't know, I kind of released it and then chickened out. I'm probably going to rewrite it at some point, but it was about finding the right date. It was called I Do, and it was to help people find the right date to get married on astrologically. And one of the things I was looking at is finding the perfect date where Venus and Mercury aren't retrograde, because essentially you're creating a contract, and you want the mind energy, the word energy, the intention energy to be really, really positive. So Mercury retrograde is linked into contracts being delayed and all sorts of things like that. I'm very relieved actually that my parents have already arrived, from England to Portugal to visit us. ahead of this Mercury retrograde, and they're staying beyond the end of Mercury retrograde. So that feels very reassuring to me. But, you know, the way I see it is if you put a hell of a lot of sort of emphasis on Mercury and that everything's going to go wrong, which is what a lot of tabloid astrology does. And, you know, when you see these little sweetheart articles and these cutesy magazines and stuff, these lifestyle magazines, they're always talking about Mercury retrograde. Oh, watch out, you know, it's bad form and whatnot. But I like to always think of it in terms of retrograde. It's got an RE at the start. And I think that is perfect because it's a time to rethink, rework, reimagine, reconsider, rewire, rewind, re-envision, replay, reconnect. It's about, you know, looking at your current position and then winding yourself back. I see it as an opportunity for those kinds of people who are reflective, another and for people who are dreamers, artists, creatives, people in healing arts. Mercury is also associated with healing as well, and a quick turnaround. You know, anyone that likes transformation, I think Mercury retrograde is actually a real sort of bonus. And if you're trying to make a life change, I think Mercury retrograde is perfect. And so it's great that it comes 3 times a year because a lot of us have these big projects and often we sort of plow in and we've got so many distractions and we try and keep our head down. And we don't fully appreciate that sometimes in our blinkeredness and keeping our head down so we don't get distracted, we kind of veer off target. So I always think Mercury retrograde is perfect. It allows us to rewind and just say to yourself for a minute, is this still fit for purpose? Is my idea still working? If not, why not? You know, because we are in a co-creative universe. That's the other thing. You know, we're creating our ideas, but other people are also creating at the same time. And at some point, all of our ideas are touching on each other and impacting each other. And so an idea that sounds great in January, by the time you get to April, you know, because of other people's changes and, you know, other people's massive life changes and political changes, you know, sometimes we need to be flexible. So I think Mercury retrograde is the perfect time to journal and to use the energy to be really reflective and to get yourself back on track. It's like re-navigating. I've never said that before, but re-navigating seems really key. So when it goes retrograde on the 21st of April, its starting point, it connects with the moon on the same day. To me, that's an indication that during this Mercury retrograde, we're going to be a lot more talkative, a lot more vocal. People born with Mercury and the moon together are super talkative usually, and always in their minds as opposed to their bodies. They're like, you know, they're always chat, and often are not really listening. And if they are listening, it's to come in with their quick quip. Now, if that moon and Mercury are together and they're not badly aspected by, say, something like Pluto or Mars, then they can be really, really quick thinking and quick communicating and actually quite purposeful. But sometimes it can be quite bitchy, the moon and Mercury together, if it's in quite a difficult place. It can be a bit gossipy. So there's a lot of chit chat going on as we are entering into this time. So the first clue to me about this retrograde is it's a time for us to shut off all that chatter, like really step outside the gossip, step outside the little backbites and things, and be really, really calm and be as zen as possible. And both, you know, obviously the moon and Mercury are both quick movers. And I got a beautiful little message from one of my friends, Mama Bear, today. And when I said, oh my God, I'm so busy, I feel like, she said, you just need to breathe. So that's the first thing with this Mercury retrograde. It's like, whew, yeah, man, let's sit back. Let's just shut everything off. Let's just chill. Now, Mercury, as it joins in, it's also in a conjunction with Uranus, and Uranus, their big themes. It's about mass consciousness, possibly, you know, mass conscious awakening, you know, with Mercury and Uranus together. Certainly lots of like faster than the speed of light reprogramming kind of stuff going on. Lots of stuff to do with AI and AI chatter. So I imagine that's going to be really big news over this retrograde period. And it wouldn't surprise me if lots of kind of controversial stuff, emerges about it. And also lots of shocks. So in fact, in yesterday's show, someone mentioned earthquakes around the time of an eclipse. And definitely, and just today, there have been 2 earthquakes that I noticed. One, I think, was it in the Philippines, and one in Mexico or something like that. Forgive me if I got those areas wrong. I just remember one was in the Far East, Southeast Asia, and the other was in South America. So yeah, so there are big earth changes, and I also think that matches consciousness. So yeah, we're starting from a place of massive internal chatter, massive shock and changes, and this shocking world humanity consciousness set point. Now, where are we moving back to? Well, Mercury, as it rewinds itself, it's moving backwards over the sun, because obviously the sun is also moving. So these two are going to cross at some point. And then Mercury is also going to move in the direction of the North Node. The North Node is also moving backwards. So they're not actually going to touch. But it's also getting closer to Jupiter. And funnily enough, when Mercury stops moving and starts moving forwards again, the very next day, Jupiter changes signs from the sign of Aries and into the sign of Taurus. So I've kind of romanticized it. And to me, it feels like Mercury retrograde is going back. It's going back from this crazy chaos time. And it's saying, come on, Jupiter, hold my hand. I'm going to bring you forwards with me. So it really feels like it's reconnecting. Now, when it goes back to Jupiter, it's about our conversation expanding. Our conversation gets more prolific. It reaches more people. It's more spiritual. It's more optimistic. It's definitely more about well-being and creating peace, as opposed to creating mischief. Mercury is going back to the North Node, which is about us getting back on our karmic path. And it's crossing the sun. So it's about us really accepting who we are and moving forwards with that knowledge. So I really, really like that. Also, during this time when it's going backwards, it's also crossing over, it's going over the lunar eclipse. So I said, we've got the total solar eclipse tomorrow on the 20th. On the 5th of May, we've got the lunar eclipse, another massive, powerful day. And Mercury retrograde is part of that coding. So again, there's another sort of huge indication that there's we are going through some kind of climactic humanity consciousness shift right now. So in all, let's be serious and sensible about this. I'm not surprised I'm feeling a little bit stressed out. What do you think? So anyway, let's get that off the screen. And just want to see. Good morning, Portugal is saying, sorry, fell asleep in the chair. That's a bit rude. Thankfully, I know that's my husband. So I suspect we've both been up since 5 because he's gone to collect my parents today from the airport. So I think that is why he hasn't brought me up a nice cup of tea. But anyway, I can see there's a couple more comments. So Nubianet is saying, I hope it ends before it's time for me to fly to Portugal. I have to wait for my new passport as well. So Nubianet, are you coming to Portugal before the 15th of May? Let me know, because I'm going to have a look at your chart on the Sunday mashup, the big deep dive into people's charts. So I'm going to have a look at your chart on Sunday. Send me over your details. It's Louisa Tanner Munson. In fact, I'm going to put my email address just below. So send me a message and I will have a look for you so that I can reassure you. So that's louisatannermunson@gmail.com. Now, Wooly B is saying, I have natal 10th in Taurus with my sun, Mercury, Chiron, and a lot of fortune. So everything is hitting it. I'm preparing to be pummeled by energy over the next few weeks. I can see why you might think that, and it's good to be prepared for that. I would also, if I was in your situation, in your shoes, Willie B, I would also be open to the possibility that you are, that yes, you could be pummeled, but you could also just be inspired. You could just be like really shaken awake. Something could really activate in terms of your purpose, in terms of in terms of your destiny. Like the 10th house is very much about your destiny. So it could be a very exciting time for you. If I was in your shoes, I think I'd take a little bit of time away from being too busy, and maybe spend time with people that are like natural coaches, or to coach yourself. Really write down, like listen to some good seminars or podcasts, given that it's a Mercury thing, and write notes. These are the times when I really listen to a lot of hypnotherapy. I trained in hypnotherapy myself, so I understand the benefit of it, and it seems to work for me. But anything that really sort of vibes with you, and can help you to repattern your thoughts and work out where your belief systems might be holding you back. There's definitely something going on to help you get on the path of success and to feel like you're moving forwards again. So exciting time for you. Newbie saying, I'm coming in June. I'll send it to you on my next break. Please do. I look forward to hearing more about that. And we've got the Global Nobles in. I think they're joining me from Lisbon right now. So if we had a very tentative and flexible house hunting trip scheduled over the next 2 weeks, best to wait until mid-May. You know what, Global Nobles, why don't you send me your details, and I will check them out for you. When are you hoping to look for your house hunting? There are some other things I could put into your charts to see if it's the right time for you to look for house hunting type things. Obviously, I know there's 2 of you. Is there a little person there as well? I can't remember. But the first thing you might want to ask yourselves is, how does it work in my chart? How does it work in my beloved's chart? And do they match? There's lots of different ways we can, I guess there's that phrase, there's lots of different ways of skinning a cat, and not that I'd ever want to do that, but we can have some fun with that. You're also saying hoping to buy by the end of summer, just us and the dog. Well, the dog shouldn't put up too much of resistance, hopefully. So yeah, let's talk. Just get in touch, and I can either look you up on the show, or I can talk with you some other time. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me wherever you've joined me today. It's an absolute pleasure to be able to do this. I hope you have a really, really lovely eclipse moment, whether you choose to get up early or wherever it is in your time zone. Just maybe before you go to bed tonight, just focus in on how you'd like to be over the next few weeks. Yeah, we're all doing this together. Lots and lots of love to you. Thanks so much for today, and hopefully catch you another time. Bye for now.